The Democratic presidential debates and primaries spotlight the huge divide between the party's moderates and progressives.
Now we're wondering whether there is a similar divide in Vermont's Republican Party. Channel 3's Calvin Cutler joins us live in our newsroom. Calvin, you've spoken with the political scientists about a shift in the Vermont GOP. What are they telling you?
Well, Kat and Celine, they say that Vermont Republicans are different than the National Party and that they're known for working across the aisle. But in a state dominated by Democratic lawmakers, experts say Republican candidates seeking office this fall will have to take a page out of Governor Scott's playbook if they want to succeed. Vermont's Republican Party is shifting.
And Phil Scott has been able to thread that needle.
Bert Johnson is a professor of political science at Middlebury College. He says in Vermont's 2002 election, Governor Douglas did just as well in small towns as he did in larger urban areas. Since then, he says, shifting demographics have left Governor Scott to rely more heavily on rural voters.
Now, Phil Scott does much better in smaller towns, much better than Douglas did and much better than in larger areas. So you can see even in the Vermont coalition how the Republican coalition is changing.
At the same time, Vermont GOP Chair Deb Bilodeau leans to the far right. If Vermont candidates play to President Trump's base, Johnson says it could cost the Republican Party votes this election cycle.
There's going to be a lot of voters that are going to come out in 2020 who are explicitly going to be at the polls to vote against Donald Trump. So what you want to be able to do is you want to separate your brand from the Trump brand.
And in a state which is vastly controlled by a Democratic supermajority, GOP candidates vying for office often feel that they're left out of the conversation. On the campaign trail for Lieutenant Governor, Meg Hansen and Dana Colson are vying for the GOP nomination. Hansen describes a crisis of confidence within the Republican Party in the last decade and a need for fresh faces.
In terms of who we are, I think a lot of people have bought into the far left stereotypes of what Republicans are, and so they feel ashamed about it. And I don't see any reason in doing that.
Colson acknowledges a divide in the GOP and says Republicans need to band together despite ideological differences.
It makes no sense to have candidates running in many different directions, because if we're not pulling in the same direction, we're not going to accomplish much.
But as the Republican Party in Vermont continues to divide between centrists and conservatives, the party's future remains murky. Experts, however, contend that there will always be a need for the GOP as a counterweight to the state's progressives.
Vermonters, they want somebody to put a check on the excesses of the Democratic Party, and that's where the Republicans are strongest, I think, in accentuating that role that they play here. You need two parties.